Hi everyone, welcome to Majesty's House of Music. I'm Emmanuel and my setup is ready. I'm going to bring you a lesson today about how to manipulate your voices when you're using this kind of keyboards, the Yamaha PSR or the new SX series. Doesn't matter, the settings are usually similar, but the newer keyboards have more functions. So I'm going to show you how to set your voices. There are many effects on this keyboard that not many of us use. So today I'm going to help you just learn a little bit about how you can tweak your voices. If you're doing things like Seben, if you're doing worship or praise, how can you set your voices with the effects and just play with them a little bit with EQ to make them sound better using this kind of keyboards. Because if you want good voices, you may have to get a very expensive keyboard or use studio software, but there's a way you can still manipulate your voices on these kinds of keyboards and still get some good sounds. So let's get right into this class. Yes, so my focus is on the screen, okay? So not so much what I'll be playing. That's why I'm trying as much as possible to focus the camera on the screen of the keyboard. So what I'm using here is a Yamaha PSR S710. It's an old model, but when they keep upgrading them, the settings don't change that much. So you will be able to adapt to your own keyboard and find out how you can apply these similar settings on your own machine, okay? So when you're working with voices, that's what we're going to focus on today, okay? When you're working with voices, sometimes you can adapt your voice to a certain style of music. And the area I'm going to focus on is the mixing console. So wherever the mixing console is on your keyboard, please go to the mixing console. On the mixing console on my keyboard here, I have a section called the volume or voice. And then if you move the tab, the next section is a filter. Then the next section is a tuning section. And then you have an effects section. Then you have an EQ section. Okay, so we're going to look at all these sections and how we can use them to work on our voices and how we can manipulate our voices using these settings. So I'm going to start with a common voice that people use in praises, especially in African music, and that is the guitars. When you're playing styles like Lingala, you know, I have a Lingala beat here, I believe. I try my best to learn some good Lingala. I'm still growing at it. So for example, I have a classical guitar, okay? Okay, so let me change my foot pedal settings here. So that's a classical guitar, okay? But when you're playing styles like Seben, sometimes you want to enhance it a little bit, especially with some chorus effects and some delays. Some chorus and some delays, okay? So the voice for now is dry, but I'll go to the mixing console and add a little bit of delay. So we'll move to the section of effects, okay? When you get to that section, you'll have your left, your right one, and your right two. That's what I have on my keyboard. Maybe your keyboard has more options. But what I'm going to focus is on the right one. That is where my classical guitar is. I'm using voice number 1. So when I check on the effects, you have 2 layers of effects. On my keyboard, I have 2 layers. I have the first layer where there is a reverb going on, and the second layer where there is a chorus going on. Okay, so I can regulate the amount of reverb, for example, that I want, the amount of chorus that I want, the amount of effects that I want on my voice using these volume settings, okay? Using the volume. So there's the setting that shows the amount of effect that is going to that voice. If you have not worked in studio so much, you may not be able to understand how these effects sound, but for those of you who have been in studio a little bit, you understand the difference between a hall reverb, you understand a plate reverb, you understand what a chorus is, what a flanger is, but you can experiment these on your own keyboard. So for example, that's the classical guitar, but I want to do a little bit more of the reverb, okay, the first effect. So I'll select the first effect and add a little bit more of the reverb, okay. There seems to be something here not going right, but we'll just fix it. So I'm on right one. Sometimes the keyboards behave like that, okay. I can just restart my machine, and then I will reselect my voice. I'm using a classical guitar. Good. So when you listen to that voice, there's an amount of reverb you can hear, something like a hall behind the sound. So you go to your mixing console, and then you go to your effects section and select voice 1. On the effects section, voice 1, go to the top to the reverb, the hall. I can reduce the amount of reverb completely. If I want a dry sound, here, that's a dry sound without any reverb, and then I can add some reverb. So it depends on the kind of music that you're working on. For example, if I'm working on a slow ballad and I want to use this sound, I'll need some little bit of more reverb, okay? Okay, let me just work on my controller here. So I may work with more reverb on that kind of a slow ballad, okay? But if I'm working on a Seben kind of a beat, or any kind of a rumba kind of a song, I think you need less of reverb. You need a more dry voice on the reverb. But when you're doing these Seben kind of songs, what can really help you most is the delay effect. Add a little bit of delay, okay? Okay? So I'll go to my second layer of effects where I have the chorus, and then I select on the type button. I want to change the type of effect from a chorus to a delay. So now I go on type, I'll see categories of effects here. So there's the block, part, category, type. So I'll go to the delay category, okay? Now when I play, exit, then I add the effect. Hear that? That's too much. We will praise you, Jehovah. Can hear the delay going on. So I can combine the reverb and the delay so that I have a mixture of both. Okay. So another voice I like using on like the Seben, the guitars, or any other style that requires guitars a lot would be a warm solid. Okay. When I go to my voice section under the guitars, I have classical, steel. There's this warm solid. I've put it on layer 2. This is how it sounds alone. Okay. So if I put a 7-bit here, so that we just get a practical application, I can decide to put something like a 7 chakacha. Okay, so that's a chakacha. It has some little bit of delay, but not so much. I would want some little bit more of delay on this voice. Okay, so when I go to my mixing console to the effects section, I choose the type of effect I want. That is a delay. Exit, and then I can control the amount of delay. Hear the delay effect. And then I can combine that voice with my classical guitar. Okay, the voice 1, you remember? See, the delay is bringing in, you know, that nice effect that I want to hear. You know, that delay coming in so nicely. Okay, now, maybe another setting that you can work on when you're working on your voices on the mixing console, apart from the effects, you can explore more about that. You can work on your EQ, equalization. Sometimes you want a voice to be to have more of the high end or the higher frequencies and less of the low frequencies. You know, you can work on the EQ. If you move to the next tab on the EQ section, for example, if I'm working on that, let me pick, for example, a string. Okay, let me pick a string voice for my voice 1. I'm working on a string voice. And for the string on the voice 1, I have 2 sections here, the low EQ and the high EQ. You'll see EQ high and EQ low. If, for example, I want more brightness on that string, I can increase the highs. Okay, just go on the highs, increase that a little bit. So I've increased the brightness of my strings because that's the sound I want to come out, okay? Or I have the lows, I want the strings to be a little bit heavier. I can increase the lows. Here it's now richer. Okay? So that's how I can use EQs to manipulate my voices. Another part that you can use, now you can explore this EQ more. For example, on bass. For those of you who play Seben and you're playing worship as a one-man band and you want your bass to be a little bit more deep or to have some more of the highs coming through, okay, the cutting of the bass, okay? You can add some chorus to it. Let me do a practical example. I'm going to select a bass guitar voice here. I'll use an electric bass, for example. Let me select the left voice. I want this on the left, or okay, it's on the right. No problem. Just to illustrate. If I want to make this bass sound better, maybe I want to add a little bit more bass, the lows, go to your EQ on the mixing console, go to EQ, and then choose the EQ low. You can add more low end to it, or less, or more. You can also add the eyes if you want it to be more, you know, audible. Or you can cut the highs completely if you want a mellow bass kind of voice. Okay, So you can use the EQ to manipulate your bass voices to get that rich bass that you'd want to hear. Now on the EQ side of things, I want to show you, if you check the edit section, you have the master EQ. The master EQ affects your whole keyboard, meaning it will affect the equalization of the beats I'm playing. It will affect the equalization of the voices I'm using, everything on the keyboard. So if you check on the master EQ, the edit section, you'll see a band of EQs here, from the low frequencies all the way to the high frequencies. Okay, so if you select one band, you'll see on the right, this is 70 Hertz. That is on the lowest side, okay? The next band is 500 Hertz, moving up on, this is now the mid-range section. And then we have the 1000 kilohertz, moving on to the high end for 4 kilohertz, and then to the 10 kilohertz. So for example, if I want this beat to sound a little bit brighter, okay? And my voices to also sound brighter, the overall equalization of my keyboard to sound brighter, I'll go on the highest band here, the 10K, and I can change the frequency here. I want it to be 11K, or I want it to be 10K, or 8K, or 9K. If I want the brightest one, I choose 16 kilohertz, and then I go to that band and I can increase, okay? So it becomes very bright, okay? Or I can kill the brightness on top, or increase it. If I want more punch on the beat, okay, or on the overall low end of the keyboard, I can move to the lowest band. See, becomes heavier, okay? But if I want, exit this, if I want to manipulate, for example, the equalization of the style alone, I'll go to the EQ, go to where the style is. If I want to increase the low end of the style, or the high end, the shakers, I'll just go to the high end, for example, or reduce it completely. Okay, I'm going to talk about beats more in detail in another video, in the next video, so don't miss out the next video. Today I just wanted to focus more on the voices. So something else you can do on your voices, move on to the filter section. There's a section on the mixing console. If you move the tab called the filter, you can alter the brightness and the harmonic content of your voice. So for example, on right one here, I can choose a piano voice, the grand piano, mixing console. I want it on voice 1, the grand piano. So if I go on the mixing console, I can increase the brightness of my piano. Let me increase the brightness. Okay. Or reduce it. So if you want your piano to be more present on stage, you can increase the brightness a little bit. Okay, so you can change also the harmonic content. So at the end of the day, it depends on the kind of music I'm working on and what kind of sound I want to get. So that will what will inform the kind of effects that I'll go for. Don't touch a lot on the tuning section, because if you change the tuning of your voices, your notes begin going off tune, okay? So you want your notes to be really exactly in tune. So don't work on the tuning of your voices. So explore more on the effects. If you are doing praise songs, work with the delays, work with the chorus, work with the reverb. Learn how the effects sound on different voices, and learn what effect makes a certain sound, become better and better, okay? So I hope those tips help you get a little bit more. I'm going to give you a final tip on working on your voices, and that would be, for example, when I select a specific voice, for example, I select the grand piano, that's my voice 1. When you go on the voice menu and you select the piano, as I've done, there is a button at the bottom called the voice set. Voice set, okay? I don't know how it appears on your keyboard, but it's called a voice set button. If you select that voice set, you'll see a bunch of settings that can also help you work more on your voice, okay? For example, that's how my piano sounds right now. I can increase something called the touch depth. The touch depth just makes the voice sound, fuller, a little bit fuller. So I usually like to have it increased from 64 to about 68, okay? If you increase it, beyond that, you can listen to the effect. If you reduce it so much, so I usually just like having it about 68. Okay? And then you can also work on the octave of your voice here, and all those kind of things. But I like using the touch depth, just tweaking that a little bit, especially when you have something like a bass. Let me select that electric bass. When you increase let's go to the voice, then voice set. When you increase the touch depth, it makes the voice very heavy, richer. See, if you reduce it, it loses the meter. So that bass really benefits a lot from using the touch depth setting there. So explore this. You have the controller section. I don't use this much. Then the other part I use is the sound section. The next tab is the sound section. You have the option of altering your brightness. Let me use my piano voice. You can alter your brightness right there. You can alter the harmonic, the attack, and the decay, the release, the vibrato. Just listen to what these effects do, okay? For example, the release affects for how long the note will sound, okay? You see, the note ends immediately. If you put a long release, the note sustains for a longer time. Hear that? So that's the effect of the release, the decay, and the attack. Okay? For example, let's increase the attack. Reduce it. So it affects how soon the note will sound when you play. So if you put a slow attack, it reduces the time that the note takes to respond, okay? Explore these effects, explore them. You have the effects section here. You can alter your effects if you want to. But basically, those are the areas that I usually touch on when I want to manipulate my voices. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Please subscribe to this lesson if you have not done so. I'm going to do another video a little bit more on working with beats and the settings on this keyboard in the next lesson. So if you're interested to learn more now on piano, we have many courses on our website. Check my link to my website and my email, my WhatsApp number in the description below the video. You'll see all the links to my website and my contacts. If you want more training, we have courses you can order from us and enhance your training and your learning. But for today, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I'll see you in the next class.